Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 2 of genetics. Today, guys, you guys kind of watched a couple videos. I'm probably a little bit confused what genetics actually is. I know this unit is going to have a lot of vocabulary and things I want to make sure we understand. Okay, so if you look back at today's assignment, you guys should have watched Gregor Mendel. You guys also had this quiz to kind of work on some vocabulary, and I'm also adding this basic genetics PowerPoint, okay, which is just an additional resource. So if you watch this, awesome. If you don't, it's totally fine. But I want you guys to at least have some access to some type of notes if you want it. Okay. So basic genetics. The first thing we're going to talk about is the term heredity. So heredity means it's the traits received from two parents. Okay. So the traits that you obtain are from your mother and from your father. Okay. So traits are passed on from one generation to the next, hence why you might look similar to a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, your own parents, things like that. Okay, that just deals with the term heredity. Now, the term chromosome, this should not be a brand new term to you because we've talked about this with like DNA replication, we talked about this with mitosis. But what it is a strain of DNA that is wrapped around a protein called a histone. Now, don't get super caught up with that. Realistically, what it's saying is that DNA is that big scrambled up spaghetti mess, and we can wrap it around something like a histone to make it more organized. So if you think about having a big ball of yarn that's just all scattered around the place, that's gross. You can't really do much with it. But if you have a ball to wrap it around, now it's organized and it's in a spherical shape, so it's able to be used, categorized, simplified, all those different pieces. Now, in a human body, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. So we have 46 total chromosomes, 23 that come from your mother, 23 that come from your father. 23 plus 23 gives you 46. Okay. And chromosomes are considered diploid. So if you see this little logo right here, this 2N, what it's trying to tell you that it is a diploid. Okay. Now, there's two things we need to talk about. We're going to talk about autosomal, and we're also going to talk about sex-linked. Sex-linked genes, guys, or sex-linked traits are going to come up later this week. From now on, just for the beginning part, we're going to talk about autosomal only. So, in your 23 pairs of chromosomes, 22 of those pairs are autosomal. Only one pair is your sex-linked. And you either can be XX or XY. Okay? XX is for girl, XY is for boy. The other 22 pairs, though, are contain your other genetic information. Okay, they're considered autosomal. So they're kind of look something like this. So your first 22 are all autosomal, and then your last pair, this 23rd pair, either meet XX or an XY. Okay, either just saying if you're a girl or a boy. Now, as for alleles, alleles is a possible form of a gene. You'll receive one allele from each parent. They can be dominant or they can be recessive. Now, dominance and recessiveness is a new term to you. So most of you guys probably understand the term dominant because you can dominate something, which means you overcome something. Now, being recessive is the opposite of that. So in our case here, a dominant trait is a trait that will appear in an offspring, and a recessive trait is a trait that will not appear in an offspring. Okay. Now, the way we represent dominant and recessive, which is kind of a couple of steps in front of you guys, so I'm just going to show it to you quick or talk about it, is by using capital letters and lowercase letters. So a dominant trait is going to use a capital letter, hence why there's a capital A here. A recessive trait is going to use a lowercase letter, hence why there's a lowercase a here. So this is dominant, this is recessive. Now, this will make more sense, guys, hopefully after you watch that first video and as you guys start working through this worksheet. Okay, but dominant and recessive, you have to make sure you understand both those words before we can go any farther. Now, the next two things I want to talk about are very, very important. So we have the term genotype. A genotype is showing your alleles. Okay, so it's showing your letter makeup. So it's going to be a sequence of uppercases or lowercase letters. If you are homozygous, the prefix homo means the same. So it's going to be the copies of the same two alleles. So it's either going to be two uppercase letters or two lowercase letters. So in my example I have here is two uppercase A's. If it was two lowercase A's, it's still homozygous. But if it's an uppercase A and a lowercase a, it is no longer homozygous because they're no longer the same. This is where we bring in heterozygous. Hetero means different. This is where we have two different alleles. So if you have a capital A and a lowercase a, uppercase a, lowercase a, those are different things. That makes it hetero. But if you have two uppercase A's, that's not hetero. That is homozygous. Okay. So knowing the terms dominant and recessive, knowing the terms homo and heterozygous are going to come in crucial. Like you're going to just need to know it. Okay. Um, the last term we're going to cover is the term phenotype. Now, believe it or not, genotype and phenotype typically get flipped around. People mess up on these quite often, and I don't know why. Okay, but let me give you a little hint here. Phenotype is the physical characteristic. Okay, pH and pH go together. So, as you guys probably understand, like your DNA literally doesn't say AA in it, or your allele isn't just an AA. That AA represents something, whether it be homozygous or heterozygous. So maybe you're homozygous capital B, which is representing black hair. So your genotype might be capital B, but your phenotype will be black hair. So the phenotype is the actual physical characteristic of what the genotype is showing. Okay. Now I understand that might get confusing. We're going to keep working through this. But that is just a brief little overview. If you guys have questions, please reach out to me this week and next week in particular. Probably the weeks, guys, we're going to have to do some Google Meets and just talk. If you are lost, you have to let me know. Guys, I don't have the luxury of seeing you and asking you questions that way. So please reach out to me. Please let me know what's going on. Other than that, I'm going to stop the video and I will talk to you guys later. Adios.